All right, ready to dive deep. Today we're tackling Empedocles. This pre-Socratic philosopher, he was like the ancient world's rock star.
Not just a metaphor either. Empedocles talk about a flair for the dramatic, and his ideas definitely ahead of their time, let's just say.
Absolutely. From what I've read, he was pondering the big questions about life, the universe, everything. Way before it was cool. 5th century BC, this guy was born in Acragas, Sicily. That's modern-day Agrigento. And get this, his family, crazy wealthy and influential.
Like his grandfather even won an Olympic horse race. Imagine back then that was like the Super Bowl victory.
Totally. But here's the thing, Empedocles, not your typical philosopher, all serious and stuff. He was the last Greek philosopher to write his ideas in verse.
Think about that. Philosophy and poetry adds a whole other level to his work. Like he understood that to make those big ideas hit home, you got to add some art to them.
Makes you think, maybe today's philosophers could learn a thing or two. But enough about style, let's get to the substance. What were some of these groundbreaking ideas Empedocles was wrestling with?
Well, for starters, his theory about the universe's building blocks. He believed everything, and I mean everything, was made up of four elements: fire, air, water, and earth.
Wait a sec, does this sound familiar to anyone else? It's like the ancient Greek periodic table.
Spot on, and it's no coincidence that his theory stuck around for over 2,000 years. Empedocles called them the roots of everything, and get this, he linked them to four major Greek gods.
Hold up, the elements each get a god. Okay, I need details. Which element goes with which god?
This is where it gets really cool. Empedocles connected fire with Zeus, all-powerful and kind of unpredictable, right? Air, he linked with Hera, that's essential everywhere. Then there's water with Nestus, life-giving, nurturing. And lastly, earth with Hades, grounding, mysterious.
I love it. Blending mythology and philosophy just makes it so much more, I don't know, lively and relatable.
Exactly. But Empedocles didn't stop at just naming these elements. He went deeper, theorized about the forces that make them mix and separate. He called them love and strife.
Love and strife. Okay, now we're talking. Tell me more about these forces.
Imagine the universe is this massive sphere, and within it, love and strife are locked in this, like, eternal dance.
The cosmic tango. I'm hooked.
Exactly. So love, that's the force of attraction, pulls the elements together, creates unity, harmony, and strife, that's repulsion, tears them apart, leads to chaos, change.
So it's this constant back and forth, this dance between these opposing forces that creates everything we see.
You got it. Mountains, oceans, plants, animals, even us. It all boils down to that intricate dance between love and strife.
Mind blown. Now I'm really
Hey.
starting to understand why this guy was so far ahead of his time.
Oh, but there's more. Empedocles didn't limit himself to the physical world. He went deep into life and death mysteries, too.
Let me guess, some pretty unique ideas about what happens after we kick the bucket.
You could say that. He was a big believer in reincarnation, that whole idea of souls being reborn, cycling through forms, human, animal, even plant life.
Reincarnation. So he was basically saying death isn't the end, but more like a chapter break in the soul story.
Precisely. He saw it as this purification process, the soul evolving, eventually returning to some divine state.
This is fascinating. Did he think the things we do in this life affect our next one?
Definitely. He saw life as this chance for spiritual growth. Our choices here determine what form we take next time around.
So it's not like we're just along for the ride in this rebirth cycle,
Yeah.
but actively shaping our own fate.
Exactly. And here's another interesting tidbit. Empedocles, he was a vegetarian.
Wait, a vegetarian? Back in ancient Greece, that's got to be super rare, right?
Very much so. And his reasoning ties directly to his reincarnation beliefs. He thought animals housed punished souls, so eating them was just wrong.
Wow. Definitely gives you something to chew on, literally. Makes you think about how you see nature, the choices you make, all of it.
Exactly. And this is just scratching the surface. Empedocles was a true visionary, insights that resonate even today.
I can't wait to dig deeper. We'll be back after a quick.
Hold on. We're just getting started. No breaks needed. Let's keep this going. Things are about to get even more mind-blowing, trust me. Empedocles, vegetarian in ancient Greece. Talk about commitment to your beliefs. Seeing animals as holding those punished souls, he just wouldn't eat them.
It's wild how he connected his actions to his philosophy. But let's shift gears a bit. Empedocles the scientist. This guy was the first to propose a full-blown theory of light and vision. I mean, that's insane considering how long ago this was.
Right. It really shows his curiosity, this drive to figure out how nature works. His theory might sound odd to us now, but for his time, it was revolutionary. He thought light actually flowed out from our eyes, like little beams touching what we see.
Wait, so he thought our eyes were projecting light instead of taking it in. That's wow. How did he even come up with that?
Well, who knows for sure? But maybe he noticed how we actively look at things. It's not like light's just hitting us passively. Or maybe that feeling when you strain your eyes in the dark like you're pushing out more light, maybe that played a part.
It's so cool to see how he was figuring out these complex ideas with what he had back then. He even tried to explain breathing using the clepsydra, that old water clock. The guy was seriously inventive.
Totally. He was always looking for connections, trying to understand the whole universe with the knowledge they had then. And even if some of his ideas turned out to be wrong, they set the stage for later scientific discoveries.
It's like he laid the foundation, even if it needed some tweaking later on. But let's not forget his most famous idea, the four elements fire, air, water, earth. He didn't just list them, he explained how they interact to create everything.
You got it. And those two forces we talked about, love and strife, they're key players in this cosmic dance. Empedocles thought the universe goes through cycles, starting with total unity, all elements blended perfectly in this sphere, held together by love.
Like a cosmic smoothie, everything blended up and chilled.
Kinda, yeah. But then strife comes in, disrupts the balance, elements start separating, recombining in all sorts of ways.
Okay, this is where it gets really interesting. Tell me how that cosmic smoothie turns into the universe we know.
Picture this. As strife takes over, it breaks that sphere apart. Elements go flying, it's chaotic. And during this time, Empedocles says, all sorts of bizarre creatures are formed.
Bizarre. Like what? Give me an example.
He talks about heads without necks, arms floating around without shoulders, ox bodies with human heads. Total freak show.
Straight out of some sci-fi movie. But I'm guessing these Frankenstein creatures didn't last long, did they?
Not all of them. Only the ones with parts that fit together, the ones adapted to their environment, they survived and reproduced.
So thousands of years before Darwin, he was already hinting at natural selection. Amazing. But where do humans fit into all this?
Even humans, Empedocles said, they went through this weird stage. He believed there were these double-sex creatures, but over time, they split into male and female.
So from chaos to order. Weird hybrids becoming the distinct species we see now, driven by love and strife. That's a pretty epic vision.
It really is. And remember, he told all this in poetry. Can you imagine? Hearing this grand story of creation in that rhythmic, flowing style.
It must have been captivating. Okay, we've covered the creation of the universe, the elements, even early ideas about evolution. But let's go back to reincarnation. We know he believed in the soul's journey through different forms. But what was the end goal? The purpose of it all?
He saw it as purification, the soul's journey back to divine bliss. He believed humans, or maybe just some special ones, were originally daemons, divine beings living in perfect harmony.
So we were once these perfect, radiant beings. What happened? Why are we stuck in this birth-death rebirth loop?
He believed these daemons messed up somehow, maybe bloodshed, lying under oath, something like that, and their punishment was being cast down to earth.
Kicked out of paradise. The Greek Garden of Eden story.
Yeah, it's a common theme, the fall from grace. And for these fallen daemons, the punishment is wandering through countless lives, different forms, till they've paid for their sins, purified their souls.
So it's not just random rebirth, but a journey with a purpose. Yeah. Each life is a step towards the divine.
That's the idea, and what we do in each life, it affects how fast we progress. The more we learn, evolve, the closer we get to escaping the cycle, returning to that pure bliss.
It's a beautiful idea.
Yeah.
Like, we have this responsibility to make the most of each life, strive for good, for wisdom, not just for ourselves, but for our soul's journey.
Absolutely. A reminder that our choices have consequences. Empedocles was telling us to live intentionally, see ourselves as part of this grand cosmic design, recognize how everything's connected.
It's inspiring, really. Makes you think about the big picture. Be mindful of what you do. See every life as a chance for growth, transformation.
He was a visionary, blending philosophy, science, and spirituality in a way that still resonates today.
His ideas, they're like puzzle pieces, helping us understand the universe, our place in it. But we've only just scratched the surface. Let's take a moment, absorb all this before we go to the final part of our deep dive. We're back, ready to wrap up our Empedocles deep dive. It's crazy how much we've covered. From those four elements to reincarnation, vegetarianism, even his early theories about light and vision.
Yeah, he really covered a lot of ground. Empedocles, he wasn't afraid to tackle the big questions, and he did it with this unique blend of philosophy, science, and poetry.
Speaking of poetry, we've mentioned a few times that he was the last Greek philosopher to actually write his ideas in verse. Why do you think he chose that format? It's such a cool concept.
Well, back in ancient Greece, poetry wasn't just art, it was a powerful way to pass down knowledge, wisdom. Think about those epic poems, the Iliad, the Odyssey. Those weren't just stories, they were like cultural cornerstones shaping people's beliefs for generations.
So using poetry, Empedocles was tapping into that,
Yeah.
making his philosophy more accessible, easier to remember.
Exactly, and it seems to have worked. We only have fragments of his poems now, but they've captivated readers for centuries.
That's the magic of great writing, right?
Yeah.
It transcends time. Speaking of fragments, what do we actually know about Empedocles' writings? What did he write about, and how much of it is lost?
So ancient sources say he wrote two main works, on nature and on purifications. They think it was around 5,000 lines of verse in total.
5,000 lines. Wow. Sadly, not all of it survived, though, right?
Unfortunately not. We only have like 550 lines left, just scattered pieces quoted by later writers. It's like trying to put together a puzzle with only a few pieces.
Must be frustrating for scholars. But even with those fragments, we can learn so much about his brilliant, unconventional mind. So what were those two works about?
On nature, that's his big cosmological work. Lays out his theories about the universe, how it began, how it works. That's where we find his ideas about the elements, love and strife, the whole cyclical nature of existence. He even talks about things like cause and effect, perception, even biological processes.
A deep dive into reality, as he saw it. And what about on purifications? What was that focused on?
For a long time, scholars thought on purifications was mostly about rituals, religious practices. They thought it had his ethical and spiritual teachings, separate from the universe stuff.
Like a guidebook to living a good life? Reaching enlightenment?
Something like that. But there's been a recent discovery, and it's kind of shaken things up.
A plot twist. Tell me more.
Late 20th century, they found this papyrus fragment, the Strasbourg Papyrus. It has a big chunk of Empedocles' writing. And here's the thing, it's got lines that they used to think belonged to both on nature and on purifications.
So maybe they weren't separate works after all.
That's what some scholars are thinking. It's caused a lot of debate about how to interpret his writings. Do we even see on nature and on purifications as distinct things? Maybe it was all one long philosophical poem, different parts addressing different ideas?
That makes sense. Like he was weaving together all his thoughts about the universe, the soul, the path to enlightenment into one big tapestry.
Right. Even with just these fragments, there's still so much to uncover, to debate about Empedocles. He's still challenging and inspiring us even now.
He was a true pioneer, pushing the boundaries of thought in a way that still resonates with us today. Philosopher, poet, proto-scientist, spiritual seeker, all in one.
That's what makes him so fascinating, right? This intellectual curiosity, the deep desire to understand our place in the cosmos. He reminds us that the search for knowledge, for meaning, is worth it, even if the answers are hard to find and the path is full of surprises.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Okay.
I think it's time to wrap up our Empedocles deep dive. From those four elements to reincarnation, love and strife, the mysteries of light and vision, he's definitely given us a lot to think about. But before we go, I'm curious, what really stuck with you? What idea, what image are you taking away from this?
For me, it's that picture of the universe as a giant sphere, constantly being shaped by love and strife. Such a powerful metaphor for those forces that drive our existence. Harmony and chaos, creation and destruction, always at play.
I love that. Reminds us that change is constant, the universe is in flux. For me, I think it's Empedocles' belief in that soul journey through reincarnation. It's comforting to think we're all on this grand adventure of spiritual evolution, learning, growing with each lifetime, trying to return to that pure bliss.
Beautiful. And who knows, maybe in some future life we'll encounter Empedocles' wisdom again.
Maybe we'll even get to read his complete works. But until then, let's keep those big questions in mind. Never stop exploring the mysteries of the universe. Thanks for joining us on this incredible journey.